This is an instructional video reviewing rounding. So the first thing we need to think about is when you are thinking about your rounding is the importance of place value, where the numbers are located. So when you think about your place value, the number in front of the decimal is called the whole number. And then we have our decimal point. The number directly behind that decimal is the tenths place. After that, you have your hundredths place. Then you have your thousandths place. And then 10,000. Notice these are all ending in THS. And then 100,000s. Do realize that it can go past the 100,000s place. Now, another little shortcut that may help some of you if you are struggling with your place value is if you think about the number 10, it only has one zero. So that would be the first number after the decimal. 100, it has two zeros. So that would be two places after the decimal, and so on. So that's just a little trick that may help some of you if you struggle with your place value. Our first problem says round to the nearest tenth. So our first step is we need to figure out or identify which number is in the place value we're looking for. So identify the number you want to round. And you're either going to be rounding that number up or staying the same. So I'm looking at my tenths place. The tenths place is the 2 in this problem. So my second step is to look at the number to the right to see if I'm going to round up or stay the same. So we're going to look to the number at the right. If it is 4 or less, it's going to stay the same. And then if it is 5 or greater, we're going to round up. So when we look at this one, we had our 310.286. The number to the right of the 2 is an 8. 8 is greater than 5, so that's going to make me round the 2 up. So my new answer would be 310.3. When you are rounding, the numbers that are past the place value that you were going to round, they all just fall off. You don't want to put zeros or placeholders. They just fall off. They go away because you rounded those away. So our next problem is that we're going to round to the nearest thousandth. So think about your place value. Tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So we're looking at the 3. Remember that number is either going to round up or stay the same. So you look to the number behind it. If it's 4 or less, it stays the same. 5 or greater, we round down. So it is greater than 5, so we are going to need to round up. So 49.464. This one says we're going to need to round to the nearest whole number. So again, think about your place value. The whole number comes in front of the decimal. So I'm considering the 6. So I need to know whether to round the 6 up or it needs to stay the same. I look to the number to the right of it or directly behind it. It's greater than 5. So that lets me know I'm going to round 6 up to 7. That's all you need. You do not need any other digits. You do not need a decimal anymore. It just rounds up to 7. Your next problem says round to the nearest hundredth. Find your hundredths place. So when I look at my problem, here's the tenths place, and then there's my hundredths. The number to the right of the place value I'm looking at is also a 5. So 5 or greater, I'm going to round up. So I'm going to keep 815.7, but the 5 is going to round up to a 6. Round each decimal to the nearest whole number in this problem. Nearest whole number. So you got to think about where your whole number is located. My whole number would be the 3, or you could even think about 53 in this case, if you chose to. The number behind it is where I'm going to look to determine if I'm going to round up or stay the same. Since it is greater than 5, I do need to round up, so my new answer would be 54. Round to the nearest thousandth. So again, figuring out where your place value is, where the number is you're looking to round. So when I look at these, I've got my tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So I'm looking at that 9. So when I do this one, I need to look at the number behind that 9 to the right, and it is less than 4. So that means I'm not going to round that 9 up. That 9 is going to stay the same. So it would be 21.789. Round to the nearest 10 thousandths. So again, when I look at these, tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10 thousandths, this is my place value that I'm needing to consider, the number that I'm looking at. So it's 8, the number behind it or to the right of it is 7, which is greater than 5. If the number is greater than 5, then I need to round up. So the 8 needs to be rounded up to a 9. My answer would be 123.4359. We're rounding to the nearest hundredths place. Again, it has TH on it, so that's hundredths place. That's after the decimal. So the 5 is in the tenths place. The 4 is in the hundredths place. The number to the right of it or behind it is less than 4. So that means my 4 in the hundredths place is going to stay a 4. So it's 87.54. Round to the nearest hundred thousandths. So again, let's figure out where we're rounding to here. Tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10 thousandths, 100 thousandths. So I am looking at the 2 to determine if I'm going to need to round that 2 up or is it going to stay the same. So I look to the number behind it. It's 0, which obviously is less than 4. So that means my 2 is going to stay the same. So 34.57492. All the other numbers just go away. You don't need any of them, because we rounded to the nearest hundredths place. Sorry, 100 thousandths place. Round the decimal to the nearest tenth. So again, here my 7 is in the tenths place. The number behind it is less than 4, so that means I'm not going to round that 7 up. It's going to stay the same. So that'll be 82.7.